Sometimes we don't get the reports as fast as we like, and that's based on population. If it's over a rural area, it takes a lot longer to get that information back into the news center. You'll see that the tornado warning's been pared back, so it no longer includes Perry County. This is now solidly across parts of Breckenridge and Meade counties, and that goes until 5:15. So the tornado warning will continue. It's still just radar indicated for parts of Breckenridge and extreme western Meade County. Irvington would be right on the edge of this storm, but certainly within the bounds of the warning. And that means you have to prepare. You've got a little bit of time to get in your tornado safe place. Those are the warnings that we have. That is the only tornado warning that we have. We've been also tracking the severe thunderstorm warning. You see that now flashing. That's the yellow polygon that we have, where they indicate that that warning will continue until 5 o'clock and that the tornado is obviously possible. Consequently, we've got the tornado warning with that. All right, let's jump back in, and I'm going to show you some of the features of this storm. Let's just put the velocity on first, and then we'll take a look at the hail. Again, the velocity indicating now just passing the Stephensport area is where we would have the greatest wind potential. The radar indicated tornado pushing off to the east, roughly at about 25 to 35 miles an hour. So it's typically moving a little slower than the ones we've had of past weeks and months that were up there at 50, 60 mile an hour. This one moving a little bit slower, nonetheless, radar indicated. Back to the radar we go, and then we'll go back and put on some of the hail markers. So as we zoom in, let me just zoom in a little tighter so we can see some of the locations. And we'll just zoom in just south of Rodelia. It's passing Stephensport. Ammons would be in there, 144. Moving closer to Rodelia, there's likely some P to maybe quarter-size hail mixed in just north of 144, very close to 477. We can take a look at that with the tools. Back to the hail scope, and then let's just scan the storm. You'll see what we're talking about inside. The hail data sometimes runs a little lags behind, but again, right where we pointed out, where we thought we could see some of the larger hail, that deep pink indicating the golf ball size, very small location for that. The idea is much of that melts as it starts to make its way through a very warm environment. That would mean that it would be down to nickel to quarter size hail most likely for some places along 144 for folks that are in that area. Otherwise, it's a period of very heavy rain. There is the rotation that we've also been tracking. Let me just take a look at that. I'll just put it full on velocity so we can see that. And again, that's moving close to Mystic at this point. So we can sort of square up our camera view. We go back and pan it over. We're out of Perry County, so you are in the clear. If you're hearing my voice and you're in Perry County, come on out. You've got a little rain still left over, but the threat of any tornado is out of your area. In fact, this tornadic type weather is not all that impressive. We do have a strong wind field, but the rotation is really secondary today to the hail threat that we've had. So we obviously have the couplet that we're watching across parts of Breckenridge County, moving past Stephensport, approaching the Mystic area. And you see that bounded by the bright reds and the bright greens. So obviously we've got winds going toward and away from the radar in a very tight area. It's that zone between, well, Mystic and Raymond that we would be most concerned with. If you're familiar with those small towns in northern Breckenridge County, you've got to be in your tornado safe place at this point. This does not cover a huge area. This certainly doesn't affect a whole lot of people. This is a very sparsely populated region of Breckenridge County. All right, let's get a check of some of the other storms around the area. I'm going to go back to the radar view, back to our home view. I'll point out that while I'm watching the storm down in northern Breckenridge County, we have additional severe thunderstorm moving out of far eastern Shelby County, lifting into Franklin County, and Ryan Hoke has his eye on that storm, right?
That is the storm we're keeping track of, Kevin, and what we've seen develop over the past couple of radar scans is a little bit of mid-level rotation, now trying to move toward the north and west part of Frankfort there. It's not a huge deal, only about 30-mile-per-hour winds on this, but just something to keep an eye on. The bigger story with this storm, by and large, is the hail potential. Of course, this lags behind about 5 minutes reports or so you can see where we've got the quarter plus size hail potential. The current location of that's basically on the southwest side of Frankfort. It'll scrape by the very north and east side of Frankfort, that core right there. So it's going to head in that direction. Peaks Mill areas north and east of Frankfort, you need to be on standby for some hail that could be $half size in some cases. Kevin, the hail is one of the big takeaways from today's storm. So much energy in the atmosphere.
Yeah, just seeing a report from a ham radio operator out of Grafenberg, that same storm that you're watching, far eastern Shelby County, that storm producing anywhere between quarter to golf ball size hail. So that is confirmed. That is there. As Ryan pointed out, if you're anywhere in far eastern Shelby or up into Franklin County near the capital city of Frankfort, you've got to take precautions for some of that hail to move in your direction. All right, let's go back inside the storm that we're watching to the south and off to our west. This is northern Breckenridge County. We're coming up on 5 o'clock. It's 4:55. We're tracking severe weather across parts of wave country, and included in that happens to be one tornado warning that is radar indicated. So again, we're making calls to all of the law enforcement agencies to say, hey, do we have any damage? We know we had damage yesterday with non-tornadic storms down across parts of Hardin County, Marion County, Taylor County. We had macro burst damage that put down some strong winds. David Mattingly's in Calvary. We're going to check in with him coming up in just a moment. Show you what some of these winds can do. So I'll ask our control room to get him on board. Let's get a shot from him coming up. You'll also notice that we have these storms that are pushing through with some strong winds, but more than likely it's heavy rain and hail. New warning coming out. This severe thunderstorm warning is for Franklin, Henry, so it's an extenuation of that thunderstorm. This infects a large population because it's moving right across Frankfort. It's pushing until 5:30 with the warning. That includes Frankfort, Peaks Mill, and Stamping Ground. Ryan was going through the sort of problems with this storm, mainly being the large hail. This is back to the tornado warning that we have. And I'm going to show you the velocity on this as we sort of square up. I'm going to just move this back to the edge so we can see how far out it goes. And then we can go to our tools and put on the velocity from this. And you're going to still see that couplet showing up. In fact, would argue that it's even tighter now. So we're still seeing the potential rotation within this storm right across northern Breckenridge County, soon to move across the county line. This takes us into Meade County right here. This is south of Rodelia, moving right across Mystic and approaching Raymond. That is going to be the core of that storm as it moves through. So you say, well, what about hail with this storm? Let's just take a look. Well, I have the velocity up. Here comes the hail, and you're going to see a couple of images pop on. We'll look inside the storm, pushing this hail potential again. Still up to golf ball size, but melting some. Wouldn't be surprised to see a small area picking up that large hail, upwards of ping pong ball size, very close to Stephensport, Ammons, Mystic, or Raymond. It's right in that general area of northern Breckenridge County that stands that greatest potential. This is the velocity. This shows us the wind and the rotation within that storm, and the radar view is going to show the potential for that hail now crossing over into Meade County, south of Rodelia, and then very heavy rain. I mean, they're seeing some tremendous rain with this as well. Could even see as, you know, it's moving at about 25 to 35 miles an hour, but with the tremendous amount of rain sort of training in the location of this storm, we may wind up seeing some flooding issues with this. Again, that's the tornado warning that we have. Let me go back to our home view, and I'll point out that it has been a busy couple of days. The warnings that we have: severe thunderstorm, eastern Shelby, moving into Franklin, lifting up into parts of Henry County. That's the severe thunderstorm warning. The tornado warning affects extreme northern Breckenridge County. Storms that have been to our south have weakened somewhat. Yesterday, that was not the case. We certainly had strong storms that moved across parts of Marion County, namely down into Calvary. I'm going to keep an eye on the radar here, and we're going to be back with an update. We're not going anywhere, but I want to go to David Mattingly, who's live in Marion County, to show us what those strong winds can do. You see, our team is spread out everywhere. Jessica, the storm tracker, approaching that tornado warning. Ryan Hoke's in the studio with me. Brian Good, he's even working from home, and David Mattingly is on the ground in Marion County. David, quickly, just give us an example of what those 80 to 90 mile an hour winds did yesterday, just to put it into context of what these storms can do on a day like today.
Well, just take a look at it here, Kevin. This looks like it was hit by a tornado. This was a barn You can see the foundation of it here, but it was completely, all the wood was completely blown off the foundation, torn to pieces here, exactly what we typically see with a tornado. But it wasn't a tornado. It was what the National Weather Service has determined was a macro burst. That's where you have high altitude winds suddenly crashing down to earth, and you have 85 to 90 mile per hour winds down here, pushing out in all directions, knocking down anything in its path. So you can see what kind of damage we have here, and we're going to show more of that to you a little bit later tonight, Kevin.
All right, David, thank you so much. We appreciate that. So much damage left behind yesterday from what David has mentioned from the Weather Service, a macro burst. We've heard many times of a micro burst. A macro burst is just on a larger scale. Downward winds spreading out in all directions certainly did a lot of damage down that way. Now, our focus today is again on a number of things. We have hail that's a potential with any of the storms that develop today. We've seen that time and again, and especially out of this storm approaching Frankfurt. We also have some rotation in the atmosphere today, and that has led to the tornado warning and the reason we're on nonstop. I mean, we've been on with very frequent weather updates all afternoon through our newscast, which began at 3 o'clock with severe thunderstorm warnings from that time on. However, this is the only tornado warning that we've had, and I'll mention it is radar indicated. Now, we're going to continue this warning for the duration, and you can see it's sort of getting trimmed back, so Ammons, Mystic no longer in it. Let me sort of re-cue that up for you so we can take a closer view. This rest of this warning for far northeastern parts of Breckenridge and the far western parts of Meade County that you see will remain under that warning until 5:15. This would be about 11 miles southwest of Brandenburg. So here's Brandenburg. You go south and west, you run into that warning. Back to our tools, let's take a look at the velocity to see if it's weakened at all. Not really. We still see that rotation. Now approaching Raymond, moving very close to Webster. If you're familiar with this area, as we work our way across eastern parts of Breckenridge County and Meade County, you know we're Guston and Irvington. That's a very popular trail that takes you right down into Breckenridge County. Lifting further to the north, there's Brandenburg. You work your way down 79, 144, just to mention a few of those roads. Raymond and Webster are there. Small areas of far eastern and northeastern parts of Breckenridge County, that's where we have the greatest rotation. This is moving at about 35 miles an hour. We also have severe thunderstorm warnings coming out of Indiana. I'm going to go back to the radar view and our home view. I'll click the radar again for you just to point out that we're not ignoring some of the storms that we have ongoing, now moving and developing across parts of southwest Indiana. Those are not in the viewing area. Most of those are going off to the north and will stay out of the viewing area. We have additional thunderstorms over parts of Jackson County, not severe. Lighter rain from Scott to Clark County down into Floyd County. We mentioned Louisville on this earlier, saying if this holds together, we would have some rain in here by the evening rush. But as you can see, that storm that moved out of Corydon has collapsed in a big way. And while we have a little bit of rain, it's not even all that heavy. So what we're dealing with is doable at this point with just some rain. With that said, we'll get rid of that live bug there. With that said, we're going to wind up seeing the storms off to our south gradually fade. I'm going to go back to the velocity and we'll go back to our home view. And you can really see where the strongest winds are. First of all, moving into the Frankfurt area, we saw some winds. You can see the brighter colors over parts of western Meade County. That's some strong winds there as well. So let's dive back in. Go to our draw tool so I can point it out, and then into our zoom. And I'm going to zoom back into the tornado warning. You'll see where that couplet is as we zoom in. Crossing or just about to cross the county line right over Raymond, just north of Irvington. If you're in any of these places, including Lodiburg, right along 261 over toward Webster, and I hope I know the area. Some of these towns I've not even heard of, I've got to be honest. It's going to be pushing right through that zone. Raymond, 477, Webster. You've got to be in your safe place at this point. We have that thunderstorm showing signs of the rotation, the reason for the tornado warning pushing through. Ryan, what do you have?
Okay, real quick here. We did just get off the phone with Breckinridge County Dispatch. They have no reports of damage at this time, but they do have deputies in the area monitoring. They can see the rotation. They'll continue to watch it, Kev.
All right, good news there. So obviously we have the rotation. The radar's not wrong on that. And the police and the emergency personnel are witnessing that. Our own Jessica Dobson is aboard the Wave Storm Tracker. I'll give her a minute to sort of get into position, and we'll go to her. She probably has her eyes close to that storm. She has all of the equipment that we have in the storm center in the vehicle she's in, so we'll check in with her in just a moment. Regardless, she's ran through a little bit of hail out toward Lanesville. That was moving across parts of Harrison County. That's the same storm that's now in Louisville that's just producing some lighter rain. For us, the tornado warning continues for a few more minutes, at least another 10 minutes. We still see the signs of that showing up based on the radar data itself, and that is moving right through the Raymond area. So I'm going to put this up. Let's just put our boxes up and let me have a conversation with Jessica. Hey, Jessica, I see you in the storm tracker there. Question is, as you make your way closer to this storm, walk us through what you've been through today. I know you saw some hail across parts of Harrison County.
Storm we saw just, a little bit earlier kind of collapse on itself, as you said, kind of washed itself out. And we did run into a lot of torrential rainfall, some very heavy rainfall worked through the area. We saw a little bit, some small bounce of hail, maybe a little bit bigger than pea size, but it was very short lived. And I think we kind of moved through it as the storm was ending. And I think now we can almost kind of see, I'm going to flip it outward. We can almost see kind of the storm well off into the distance. It's pretty dry right now. We still have a little ways to go. We're heading towards Brandenburg right now, so we're going to try to get a better view and better idea of what we're dealing with this storm as it works through Breckinridge County towards Meade County. So we're heading towards Brandenburg as we head towards these next couple of minutes. So we're going to keep a close eye on things. We have seen some hail, some torrential downpours all throughout this afternoon, so we're going to get a better idea. We've seen a lot of lightning too, so these storms are very electric. They've got a lot of fuel to them, so we're going to send it back to you guys in the studio and to Kevin for the latest update.
All right, Jessica, thanks again. Very close to these storms, pushing through with at least some small hail through parts of Harrison County. Seeing now plenty of lightning with these storms. That's something we haven't talked a lot about just because it's sort of a given with these thunderstorms that anytime you have this type of setup, you're going to have a tremendous amount of lightning with all of these storms. It's the hail that's oftentimes an indicator of the storm's building, as well as how much hail would be involved in the storm is when you have a tremendous amount of lightning. Again, when we look at the radar view, you can see the heavy rain, the potential for some of that smaller hail, but notice the colors of this. The purples that we had, which would be right along 376, are no longer there. So a sign that at least the hail threat has weakened somewhat. What has not weakened happens to be the fact that we still have, in some cases, the potential for the rotation. And I'm going to just move this back just a little bit. It's passing by Raymond. If we see the rotation, it's now moving into Meade County. We go back to our tools for that. Let me move this back down and back into our tools. There it is. And then the velocity, boom. And you're going to notice it's right across the county line. So that's where the greatest rotation is, from the reds into the greens. This is that rotation that we see on the radar. We also have another severe thunderstorm warning coming out. This one will move us right farther to the east. So this is going to include Brandenburg. This is a sign that the tornado warning at this point is not going to continue. But what they've said is there's a severe thunderstorm warning that will continue with a tornado possible. And that's the wording that the Weather Service is giving on the latest tornado or severe thunderstorm warning that we have. So the latest severe thunderstorm warning will go until 6 o'clock. That includes a good chunk of Meade County, pushing over as you work your way toward northern Hardin County. And that's where we find the radar over in Fort Knox. This also clips extreme southern parts of Harrison County. Laconia would be in that. Brandenburg, Ekron, moving toward Flaherty. It's just north of you folks, pushing very close to Muldrow. So this severe thunderstorm warning, a little bit of inflow there. Rotation now right across the county line, indicating that the tornado warning that we have in place will continue for parts of Meade County until about 5:15, and then the warning downstream will be a severe thunderstorm warning that we have. I'm going to go back to the radar view, back to our cameras, and back home so we can take a look at all of the storms across the area. We keep pointing out that the severe thunderstorm warning in Frankfort and Franklin County has potential for hail. The severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado warning now moving across Meade County has the potential less for hail, more for wind. The rotation showing up with that storm. The severe thunderstorm warning farther to the north across southwest Indiana will stay out of our viewing area. So really it's two areas of concern. One will be moving out fairly fast. That's the one in Frankfort. That's going to be pushing out of the viewing area within the next 30 minutes. The one we'll have to keep watching will be the one moving across Meade County and approaching parts of Bullitt and perhaps southwest Jefferson County. So that'll be the zone that we watch over the course of the next, I'd say, couple of hours, really. So we'll just have to see how long that the intensity can hold. It's moving into an area that hasn't seen a whole lot of storms at this point today. I'm going to zoom back into the storm that I'm keeping an eye on, and then we'll go over to Ryan Hoke, who's watching the storm in Frankfort. Let's dive back in. Again, it's a combo warning. Tornado warning until 5:15, followed by the severe thunderstorm warning that will take it farther to the east until 6 o'clock. When you look at sort of the core of this storm, we still see the inflow to the storm. We still see the rotation. You can even see it on the reflectivity here. You can certainly see it as we look at the velocity. Let me just zoom in. There it is. So it's already past the county border as you work your way into Meade County. Eventually, that will continue toward Ekron, Brandenburg, as you work just north of Hillgrove. Those are the areas, these are the streets involved with this storm. Back to our radar, and then to our home view, and you'll notice the other storm is in Franklin County. And let's go over to Ryan Hoke for an update on that. The hail core on that storm coming down or going up?
It's going down at this point, Kevin. Some great news for folks in northeastern Franklin County. Peaks Mill, you guys kind of in the middle of this at this point as we try to look at the storm core. It's right over the Peaks Mill area, but you'll note that you don't have any of those purples in the center of this thing anymore. So it's not quite as strong of a hail signature as it was before. Our hail size potential product here, putting it well below severe limits. So some fantastic news there. One other thing to note with this storm, it does have some mid-level rotation in it right over the Peaks Mill area. It does not look like enough to produce a tornado. This is a little bit far away from the radar, too, so we're kind of looking up in the storm a bit here. We'll continue to monitor for folks in Peaks Mill, but this storm is now pushing north and east, mainly outside of our viewing area over the next several minutes, Kevin.
All right, good news there. Again, keeping you updated on what's happening. That's one storm that's moving out and weakening just a bit. Another storm that is showing signs of weakening happens to be the one that is tornado warned, and that's the one off to our south. We're coming up on just about 3 minutes until that tornado warning expires, so we'll be able to get back to the day's news. We do have news that's going on today outside of the weather. The alert day coverage continues. We try to give you a heads up days in advance to say, hey, over here, pay attention to this day. It could impact your plans, and that's indeed what's happening today with a number of severe thunderstorm warnings and always more important, the tornado warnings that we have ongoing. When you take a look at the radar view, it's now moving out of Breckinridge County and is pretty much solidly across Meade County. This will take it north of Irvington, but just barely. And Brandenburg, you're under the severe thunderstorm warning. That takes it over toward Grampton. So that is the severe thunderstorm warning with the possible tornado that will go until 6 o'clock, that warning. Again, as we scan the storm like we do, let's just go back. I'm going to show you the hail. We go to the hail scope for that. We've heard no active reports of any type of damage. The hail core has come down. Remember earlier we were in the pinks and even the purples, but now we've gone down to the quarter to nickel size and even lower. So the hail core coming down with this as well. Good news for that. When we look also at our tools, we can show you the velocity. Inside that velocity is where we would have the rotation, and you're going to notice that is still there, but it's not as strong. It is across Meade County at this point and will continue moving off to the east. So that's the wind velocity that we're looking at. If we were to look at some of that information and just take a look at some of the higher wind values in there, you're going to see that it's not all that impressive. In fact, when we look at it off the screen here, it's roughly on the order of 55 to 60 miles per hour. Not a huge problem at this point. A lot of heavy rain, yes. Hail threats diminishing, wind threats diminishing. That's the reason the National Weather Service went with a severe thunderstorm warning instead of the tornado warning. Now, I'm going to, again, zoom out back to the radar. Let's go back to our home view, and I'll ask Ryan to give us a wide view just a second, because out in West Kentucky and across parts of Missouri, we have other storms that will be rolling in later tonight. And we're watching those closely simply because some of those could push in here late tonight. If you've been watching today, you know we've said our alert day coverage will continue. This watch that we have across our counties will go until 8 o'clock. But the threat of severe weather may continue for some of us, especially Indiana, until late tonight. Let's go over to Ryan Hoke so we can verify why. And that's because some of the storms in Missouri are just now exploding.
It's this comma head shaped area of thunderstorms that you see south and west of St. Louis right now that we're concerned about for later tonight. That's going to be moving to the north and east toward us, and we could see another round of some stronger storms. Now, the trajectory of this thing is going to be absolutely key. Will it aim more toward Louisville? Will it aim more toward southern Indiana? Some of the latest data targeting southern Indiana more than Kentucky on this next round of storms for later tonight. We're watching for damaging winds, another isolated tornado threat, and of course hail. Hail has been one of the biggest stories of the day, and it may very well continue to be, Kev.
All right, back to the radar view. The tornado warning has expired. We are closely monitoring this severe thunderstorm warning. And if you notice, it's outlined in black. That's an indication that the Weather Service has said this has a tornado possible with it. So it's not a tornado warning, but it's a severe thunderstorm warning that we watch closely, along with the other severe thunderstorm warnings that we have. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have the day's news. I'll have a recap of what we've seen today and what to expect for the evening. You've been watching nonstop weather coverage on this alert day from Wave News. John Bull has the latest news of the day when we come back.
This is Wave News at 5.
Here we go again. Another round of strong storms rolling through this afternoon that we warned you about with a wave weather alert day. We've had a severe thunderstorm warnings in place, just got through a tornado warning. We've deployed the Wave News Storm Tracker to keep an eye on possible damage in the area. Thank you for watching Wave News at 5 tonight. I'm John Bull. Shannon Cogan's off. Well, those storms bringing along a lot of wind with them as well, and we're keeping an eye on the storm system as it moves through the viewing area. First off, let's get over to Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harnett with more on what we can expect here as going forward.
Yeah, and John, you mentioned the wind. We've also had the hail, too, which has been a problem across some places in wave country today. This afternoon, it's the wind and hail threats that we're watching. When you look at the radar view, you'll notice the warnings that we have happen to be just off to the south and west of Louisville. Let me zoom into that. This is no longer a tornado warning, but a severe thunderstorm warning, certainly capable of producing some very strong winds as well as some heavy rain. The Wave Storm Tracker is moving right through Brandenburg. Let me show you what that looks like, because this is the bridge that takes you right across the river, and you'll notice as it makes its way into Kentucky. So it was in southern Indiana, making its way into the Brandenburg area. Heavy rain is falling. You can see the brake lights on the cars in front. It is going to slow you down this afternoon. The trees blowing somewhat, but not outrageous. Yeah, we do have at least some heavy rain with this and some wind. We mentioned that there was some rotation now moving south of Brandenburg. It's not on the ground. We've had no reports of tornadoes on the ground. It was all radar indicated. Back to our home view we go to point out that that thunderstorm has our attention. It's a severe thunderstorm warning that will go until 6 o'clock this evening. It is the lone severe thunderstorm warning that we have in the viewing area. We have additional storms, southern parts of Breckinridge County, central parts of Hardin County, some light rain in parts of Jefferson, and then you work your way back across the river into parts of southern Indiana. But for the most part, we're going to see the weather ease a bit before more storms to our west move in later tonight. John, I'll address that and talk about the whole 10-day earliest alert coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay, Kevin, let's focus now on what the storms have already done. The National Weather Service is describing the storm that hit Marion County Wednesday evening as a macro burst. For several minutes, intense wind blasted the countryside near the Calvary community. And Wave News reporter David Mattingly is there with a look at the damage live.
That's right, John. Come take a little walk here with me. This was not the work of a tornado, but it looks just as bad. In fact, anything standing in the way of those destructive winds that hit here yesterday were not left untouched. Almost a full day since the cavalry community felt the complete fury of an unexpectedly intense storm, residents struggle to come to grips with the damage.
I don't know. You know, I just bought this house in October and, you know, haven't even owned it a year. Yeah, it's my great-grandparents' home, so that was my great-grandparents' barn. That's no.
That barn was smashed and splintered, sending dangerous shards flying everywhere. How a piece pierced a nearby car is anyone's guess.
We don't know.
We have not.
That's the pieces of the barn everywhere.
That's a piece of the barn right here?
Yes.
Man, that is stuck. The storm snapped trees, ripped out power lines, and littered fields with debris. And this storm can't be measured just by the damage it did to buildings. Take a look at this field. Before the storm hit, this entire field was green with a new crop of corn. But look at it now. There is not a single plant left. National Weather Service investigators say it's the work of a microburst when high-altitude winds smash down to the ground with incredible force. What you're describing sounds like an explosion.
It does. That is it is an explosion of wind, and that's exactly what it is around this area of Marion County. I'm glad no one got hurt.
Unlike a tornado, the 85 to 90 mile per hour winds left damage in all directions for more than a half mile, and a lot of work to do for the people caught in its path. And all through this valley, we have heard the sounds today of heavy equipment clearing roads and moving away debris. Just the beginning of a community now trying to recover. Reporting live in Marion County, David Mattingly, Wave News.
Okay, David, we got significant hail coming down right now. Let's get out to the storm tracker and Jessica Dobson to show us what's going on out there right now.
Yeah, you know, where we had that tornado warning, and we're kind of moving through the core of the storm right now, so we have been picking up some kind of intermittent hail, and so far I'll kind of pan this around. Right now we're still on State Road 135, and we're right through parts of Brandenburg, just to the south of the real core part of Brandenburg. But so we're still swinging through parts of town. We're still seeing some potting on the roadways, and we have certainly seen at least, I would say, pea to dime size hail so far, kind of working in and around the area. We're still seeing, you can kind of hear it if you hear it hitting the windshield there. We don't want to get too far into the core of the storm, and we're still staying kind of far out from those peak wind gusts because we just don't want to risk it. We don't want to get too close, and of course we want to play it safe. So we're kind of swinging around this storm, kind of getting a better view of what's happening. But best idea is just, if you are in Meade County, kind of wait it out as the storm passes over your area. Live with the Storm Tracker, Jessica Dobson, Wave News.
Okay, Jessica, stay with us here at 5, 6, and 7 tonight. We will cut in, show you exactly what's going on out there as conditions dictate. Now's the perfect time to grab the weather app from Wave. It's free in your phone's app store. You can send any photos or videos of heavy rain and wind, hail, or storm damage right to the newsroom, and we put them right up, too, if we're on air covering it. All right, let's get into some of the bigger news stories going on today. 30 days after police find a woman